Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to the most exciting Steelers show in history. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with Jay Dash. We're going to preview the Steelers-Broncos game this week. Denver is coming into town. Pittsburgh is 8-5. They need this win to stay in the playoff hunt. They can win this game and actually affect the whole entire AFC playoff picture because they can affect the number 1, 2, 3 seeding. And if Pittsburgh wins out and Cincinnati loses out, we actually can win the division.
Believe it. You're putting a lot of pressure on me here, though.
The best people rise when pressure is put on them.
Well, I never said I was the best person, best people.
The best ever.
But look, how about this? For the second week in a row, the Steelers will face the team that has allowed the least points in the NFL this season. Last week it was Cincinnati. They went out and put up points on them. Now it is the Denver Broncos at 225 points this season.
A bunch of tough defenses, man. Pittsburgh is averaging 26.5 points per game, too. Not the offense. I mean, that's offense and defense together. So it's going to be an interesting matchup to see. Denver knows how to shut it down. They're the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. They're number 1 in total yards allowed, number 1 in points allowed. It's going to be close. I don't think either team is going to score 30 points this week.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility. Anything could happen. I think the Steelers actually have a better shot to put up 30 points than the Broncos do, actually, though, because Brock Osweiler, I do not trust him to have big games. They've been actually playing close games since Brock Osweiler took over, more low-scoring games.
Right, but then last week they tried to make him throw 50 times, and they lost to the Raiders.
Yeah, only put up 12 points in that game. They only put up 17 points the week before versus the Chargers, but that the defense only let up 18 points over the past 2 weeks.
So let's shut down the running game for Denver, force Osweiler to try to beat us, and then pick the ball off a whole bunch of times like we keep doing and win the football game.
Yeah, that's really what you need to do. You got to shut down that run game. And really, the Denver Broncos this season, they really combined Hillman and C.J. Anderson. They do have over 1,100 yards rushing. It's not terrible, but you thought C.J. Anderson coming into this season was going to be one of the top running backs. What he did last year was pretty much amazing when he took over as the starting running back. But Ronnie Hillman has actually, I don't know if he's outperformed them or not. I mean, he has a less yard per carry average, but they seem to trust him more, and he breaks off the bigger plays. He scored more touchdowns. He's actually doubled C.J. Anderson in touchdowns this season. Anderson with 3 and Hillman with 6. But really, their run game has not been what they wanted it to be this season. Peyton Manning was, nobody really expected him to. 9
touchdowns, 17 picks.
Yeah, he's had a terrible season, and really, he's probably healthy enough to play right now. In fact, he's going to be the backup in this game, and they're going to stick with Brock Osweiler. But really, this offense just hasn't been what they wanted it to be this season, and it starts with this running game here, even though Peyton Manning wasn't the guy they wanted him to be this year.
You know what scares me? You just said Peyton's going to be the backup. I bet you Peyton's never been a backup in his whole entire career. What if he comes in and breaks Ben Roethlisberger's records that he set as a backup quarterback against Pittsburgh? That would suck.
The Steelers' secondary, they let up a ton of passing yards, so it's not out of the realm of possibility, obviously. But no, I'm going to say he doesn't even take a snap in this game. Brock Osweiler plays the entire game.
But Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson, real quick before we move on, I read an interesting article earlier today that said once C.J. Anderson was struggling early in the year, that the team felt like he wasn't working hard enough to get out of it. So then they switched to Ronnie Hillman, and they just like him in practice. He works harder. He's more of a team leader, more of a team guy. And they're not saying Anderson isn't any of those things. They're just saying Hillman's better at those things. And since they're both kind of running the same, Hillman's going to get the more carries. Brock Osweiler, though, I don't know, man. I'm not scared of this dude at all.
No, I'm not, but he got some nice receivers out there. Demaryius Thomas, obviously, one of the best receivers in the game.
Screwed us in that playoff game with Tim Tebow.
Yeah, he's only scored 3 touchdowns this season, but he already has over 1,000 yards receiving, 143 targets already, 88 receptions. But he's also not 100% healthy. We were watching the Denver game last week, and he had a shoulder injury. He was in and out of the game, so he's not 100% healthy. Emmanuel Sanders, he still gets targeted a ton. He has 108 targets, but he only has 57 catches. So he's not a guy that runs high percentage routes this season, especially since Manning wasn't what he was supposed to be, and Brock Osweiler isn't the greatest passing quarterback in the league.
I wonder if Sanders is still happy he's playing with Peyton Manning instead of Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I'm
dead
sure
wrong.
he'd rather be with Big Ben now.
In your face, Sanders. That's what you get for calling out Big Ben.
But Sanders actually leads
Loser.
the team with 4 receiving touchdowns, and then they have 2 solid tight ends out there. The one they traded for this season from the San Francisco 49ers, and
VD.
that's Vernon Davis. He actually had a big drop in that game last week, though, but he has 19 catches for 196 yards since he came over, and Owen Daniels has been a pretty solid tight end for him as well. In fact, he has as many touchdowns as Demaryius Thomas on the season. But that's it. It's those 4 guys really in the passing game. I mean, they come up with a couple other guys. Jordan Norwood makes a catch here and there. Cody Latimer maybe here and there. But it's really those 4 guys in the passing game and then the running back duo that really hasn't turned out to be what they hoped this season in Hillman and Anderson.
As good as Denver's defense is, I still expect Pittsburgh to be able to move the ball efficiently. Maybe not in big chunks like they have. Maybe not 30 points, 500 yards like they've been getting. But there's no reason to think that, the way the offense has been moving, that Ben can't command 2-3 scoring drives in this football game, maybe even 4. They can't kick field goals. That's the one thing. They kicked some field goals last week when they should have had some touchdowns. You don't want to do that. I know Cincinnati's a good team too, but Denver's defense is just a little bit better than Cincinnati's. They're a little more opportunistic. So you can't really give them a chance. And the Steelers need to be able to go down and get touchdowns in the red zone this week.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I said, they only scored on the first drive last week and the last drive. And the last drive was because the defense set them up there. And I think this Steelers offense really got to put it together more this week. I mean, if they can put together another 4 field goals and a touchdown, it's not the end of the world. But you can't trust on that every week.
I want 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals.
Yeah, Big Ben needs to throw the ball this week and get the ball in the end zone because D'Angelo Williams, he might have a tougher time this week as well.
Which wide receiver will step up, Brown, Wheaton, or Bryant?
Actually, I think Heath Miller's going to step
Heath,
up, man.
There it is.
We talked about it. He's
Whitey.
your sleeper this week?
Believe it.
So, yeah, I mean, Denver, they do a great job at stopping the wide receivers, but they have a little bit of trouble, not a ton of trouble against the tight end. So I think the way Heath Miller has played at home this season, I think that Big Ben's going to look his way a good bit. But out of the wide receivers, I think you're going to need the big play out of Martavis Bryant. I think he missed it last week. He had a chance to come up with a play in the end zone, a little bit of pass interference on that play maybe. I think this week he really has to come up with that big play, that big touchdown reception, 60 yards, something like that. But who do you think has the most yards per reception on the team?
I know Brown's somewhere around 14.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing Bryant's somewhere around 17.
Mm-hmm. 17-7.
It's got to be Wheaton then. He's probably around 20 after that big 200-yard game.
18.4 for Marcus Wheaton. He has 589 yards now on the season. 3 games left, so if he gets another 50 yards per game, he's right around 750 yards on the season.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get a 200-yard receiving game.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it that way, but really over the past 3 weeks, he has been a more consistent receiver, and I really think they need that in this game because, like I said, they do a good job at shutting down the receivers, so the more receivers that you have involved in this game out there, the harder it's going to be for them to shut down the Antonio Brown and the Martavis Bryant.
Ben Roethlisberger does a weekly radio show on the B Squad, and they asked him, what is the biggest difference with Marcus Wheaton right now? What has given you more confidence in the guy to go to him more often? And Ben answered him, and he said, it isn't me having more confidence in Marcus. It's Marcus having more confidence in himself after that Seattle game. He said that he sat down with Wheaton and was trying to just explain to him, when you watch game film, tally down every play. Did you win or lose that play? Whether it was a pass to you, whether you dropped the pass, made the catch, scored a touchdown, whether your entire role was just supposed to be a decoy on the other side of the field. Did you win that play? And when you do that, you'll become a more effective player, more effective receiver. And he said you can just see it in Wheaton, and he's been doing that this year, and he's really just has more confidence in himself, and he's really coming into his own.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the season, he was making mistakes, though. Some bad drop passes, and he just didn't turn out to be what we wanted him to be. I mean, you were actually really high on him coming into the season. Me, not so much, but he really disappointed the both of us But it's finally nice to see him turn it around here, and maybe, just maybe, he can be a long-term slot option for him.
He's fallen right in between where I wanted him and where you wanted him, or expected him, I think.
Yeah,
He's
he's
kinda
actually
right in the middle
doing
there.
better than what I thought at this point now. Mostly because that 200-yard game, obviously, you take that away and he has less than 400 yards still, and you're not that happy. But
Right.
with that 200, I mean, you can't take it away from him. He has it.
He's the one that kept us in that game.
Please believe.
Are you as surprised about the 1,000 yards coming up for DeAngelo Williams as the rest of Steeler Nation?
What, 7.5 games? So really, he has pretty much 100 yards per game when he starts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Around that.
So, I mean, that's pretty good. I didn't expect all that. So, a little bit of a surprise. I mean, if you really put it all together, he's a 1,600-yard running back this season if he started from day one. So, that's a little bit of a surprise. I didn't expect that. But, I mean, not really. We knew the Steelers would run the ball okay this season, and he's not the worst running back in the world. In fact, I said coming into the season, I liked the way they had Bell with LeGarrette Blount. Blount was sort of a bigger guy, and he could just run into people. But now that Le'Veon Bell has gone down for the season, DeAngelo Williams is definitely the better option to have because he's more of a starting running back than LeGarrette Blount is, in my opinion. But a little bit of a surprise, but not really. I mean,
if you told me he was going to start 11 or 12 games, which is around what he's going to get, and then play some in the other games too, you know what I mean? It doesn't shock me that much. This guy was a good runner in Carolina. He had a little struggle with injury, and then he was always sharing carries with Jonathan Stewart. So obviously you're not going to have 2,000 yards rushing or 1,700 yards rushing when you're splitting half the carries. And I think that helped us actually because now he has fresher legs than most 32-year-old backs. What about this defense? Early in the year, before the season even started, I predicted the Steelers' defense to be a top 10 defense by the end of the year. Yards-wise, that is not going to happen. Turnovers, it's getting close. I actually think we are in the top 10 in turnovers. And sacks, we both said that we thought the linebackers and the D-line would be able to get more sacks this year than last year. They're actually 5th in the league right now with 35 sacks.
Yeah.
That's beast. And it's not coming from your typical 1-2 outside linebacker tandem like the Steelers are used to. There are like 3 or 4 different guys that have 5 sacks. I know Cam Hayward has 6 right now on the year. This will be, if he gets another one, that'll be 3 years in a row, I believe, that this guy's had 7 sacks as a defensive end in the Steelers 3-4 system. Does Aaron Smith even have 7 for his whole career? And I'm not hating on Aaron Smith. I'm just trying to show people how good some of these D linemen we have. How about that interception by Tuitt last week? That was some good athleticism for him to be able to catch that ball and kind of swivel his hips and turn and run. A big guy doesn't normally make that play. So I'm very impressed by the Steelers' front 7. I just think they keep getting better and better. And I like this cornerback rotation that Tomlin's using now. It keeps legs fresher. It keeps guys, I think it keeps them more focused on the game because they're waiting to get back in there. They're chomping at the bit to make a play. And less is more. We've said it a bunch of times now with Cockrell and Blake.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have a pretty easy time in the run game this week. The Denver Broncos only averaged 3.9 yards per carry on the ground, so I think they'll be able to stop the run, and I think they'll be able to get to the quarterback too. And keep adding to that sack total. Yeah, Osweiler, 17 sacks already for him.
He's sacked 5 times in 2 of the 4 games he's played.
Yeah, so he's not getting rid of the ball quick enough,
Nope.
Obviously. Not like Peyton Manning did, because Peyton Manning was only sacked 15 times leading up to his injury. So actually...
Yeah, and he's old and injured.
I wouldn't put it completely on the offensive line here. I'd say Osweiler has to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker.
He needs to make those
I think
reads.
the Steelers are going to come up with a handful of sacks in this game and shut down the run game. So if Denver wants any chance to win this game, I think the defense has to come out and shut down this Pittsburgh Steelers offense that has put up, well, not necessarily the offense. This Pittsburgh team has put up 30 points for, 5 straight weeks now?
Yeah. Denver's going to have to beat us in the turnover battle. And they're going to have to make them count, not get a turnover and then, go 3 and out afterwards. They're going to have to get turnovers from Ben Roethlisberger, and they're going to have to turn them into points. I don't want to sit here and say it's the only way for, 10-3 to beat an 8-5 team. But with a backup quarterback who's only playing well enough, not that he's playing well, he's not losing games until last week when you've seen it. So Oakland exposed Denver. Pittsburgh, I think, will follow that same pattern, shut down the run, force Osweiler to beat him, and he's going to throw picks. And I don't see Denver being able to beat Pittsburgh here, even though I still think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, they're 10-3, but they've been relying on their defense to get to that 10-3 point all season. Like we said, the quarterbacks just haven't been what they wanted to do this season. The running game hasn't worked out for them. So it's really been all on this defense, and we'll have to see if they can come out and shut down an offense like the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they shut down the Patriots somewhat. I mean, they beat the Patriots a couple weeks ago, 30-24, so only 24 against the Patriots. They only let up 10 versus the Packers this season. That's a pretty decent offense, not what you'd really think. But outside of that, they really haven't played many good offenses. The Ravens, the Chiefs, the Lions, Vikings, Raiders at the time, maybe you could say they were a good offense at that time. Browns, Colts, Chiefs, Bears, Chargers. So they haven't played many good offenses this season, and that's a Chargers offense now. Just a couple games ago, they played them. The Chargers offense right now is terrible.
Shambles.
Yeah, they're just terrible right now. So Denver, they haven't played many good offenses this season. Just the Patriots and the Packers, really. They went out and beat both of those teams, though. So we'll have to see, though. I think outside of the Patriots, I guess I'd say the Steelers' offense is probably the best they'll see this season.
And, you know, the Steelers' offense is probably the hottest offense in the league outside of Seattle, at least the hottest in the AFC. Big Ben just playing great this year. Everybody's playing great. And you're right, Denver hasn't played a lot of great offenses. This will be a good test for them to come into Pittsburgh. If they can actually win this football game with defense in Pittsburgh, then I'll say that they are a real legit Super Bowl contender, even with Osweiler. But until he comes into somebody else's house and can beat them, yeah, they beat the Patriots and the Packers, but those were both home games, right?
Yeah.
So I want to see Osweiler do it in a hostile environment because, I mean, they may end up having to go to New England or even possibly Cincinnati still to make it to the Super Bowl.
Well, I'll tell you what, Pittsburgh may have to go to Denver by the time it's all said and
Ryan
done.
Clark's gone, so we're not worried about that anymore.
Yeah, true. But I want to see Pittsburgh at home go out there and handle this game, not necessarily easily, but go out there and beat them by a decent score, 7 to 10 points or something, so you know when you go into Denver you have a chance. Now, if it's a low-scoring game, real close, I don't know if I'd make Pittsburgh a favorite in Denver at that point later in the season. But if they go out there and handle business this week, I won't be as worried about going into Denver in the playoffs.
Pittsburgh's about a 6-point favorite right now, anywhere in between 6,
That's
7, 8.
crazy to me.
You think they're going to cover?
I do think they're going to cover, to tell you the truth. Yes, I do think they're going to cover that, but I would never put money on that.
Pittsburgh at home, baby. That's what you put money on.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to take Pittsburgh to win this game, but who do you think is going to come up with the biggest play of the game? You asked me before what receiver's going to step up. Who's going to come up with the big game-changing play? Last week it was Willie Gay, actually. I don't even know who you're picking to win this game yet, but
Will Allen. He saved me once in, the Rams game. I don't think it's going to be on the last play, but I think Will Allen's going to make an impact in this game. Osweiler has a hard time reading the defense. He has a hard time setting up his throws. He's big and tall, but he actually gets a lot of passes batted down at the line. That's because he can't see the rush and the field at the same time quite yet. He's still young. So I think Will Allen will be able to take advantage of that, and he comes up with 2 interceptions in this football game.
dang. All right, well, let's get into keys to victory here. What are you saying?
Obviously, the turnover battle is number one. Pittsburgh's kind of cut down on that, so I'm not going to go all cliche and use that this week. I think that the Steelers' defense has to match Denver's defense in points scored or more. They cannot let Denver's defense outscore them. Now, if neither one scores, then that's good. We didn't let them outscore them. But if Denver gets a pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown, their defense is very good at producing points. And that's what's helped keep them in a lot of these close games and why, they've been able to linger around 10-3 without Peyton Manning all season. But I think the Steelers' defense needs to get more turnovers and score more points and be a factor in this football game because the offense is good, but so is Denver's defense, and they're going to kind of almost even each other out. So I think the Steelers' defense needs to come up and help them win this football game.
Yeah, I think the defense really got to stop that run and make Brock Osweiler pass and force him into some mistakes. But I think it's on the offense this week. I really trust the defense in this game. So I'm going to say Big Ben got to go out there and keep all his receivers involved, Brown, Bryant, and Wheaton, and make sure to feature Heath early like you have been, but keep him involved in the game too, because that's the way you got to go out there and beat the Broncos, is make sure you use all your weapons, and that'll help open up the run game as well. So I want to see Big Ben go out there and show why he believes this is a 30-point per week team, and do it against one of the better defenses in football. I know they did it last week, but it was kind of ugly doing it, and there was a lot of help by the defense. I want to see Big Ben step up and show that this offense is ready to take this team to the Super Bowl, because it has to be on the offense this season. I know the defense is playing great. They played better than we really thought they were going to coming into the season, really. I know you said they were going to come up big this season, but by the time the preseason was over,
I was worried.
Yeah, you really thought they were going to be bad at that point. But preseasons, obviously they came up big this season, but it's on this offense. The only way you're going to get to the Super Bowl is have your offense rolling with an elite quarterback, and Big Ben can start it right here this week.
Key to victory number 2. Don't use Ben Roethlisberger as a lead blocker on an end around.
Yeah, that'll work.
Todd
too.
Haley. Thank you. What's your prediction for the game?
Prediction for the game? I'm going to say it's somewhat low scoring, especially for the Denver Broncos. I'm going to say they don't score many points at all in this game, and Pittsburgh does find a way to get the ball into the end zone more than 2 times. So I'm going to say the score is 24-10 Pittsburgh.
I thought you were going to steal my score. I think it's going to be close too. I think Pittsburgh wins this football game 24-14. I think the Broncos, they're going to get points. The Osweiler's not complete garbage. He plays efficiently, and if he doesn't turn the football over, Denver can stay in the game. But I think Pittsburgh does get at least 1 or 2 turnovers, and Osweiler plays okay. Probably a garbage time touchdown in there somewhere for either team near the end of the football game. But yes, Pittsburgh 24-14, covering the spread, winning the football game, and putting the pressure on the Bengals, who have to go all the way across the country to play a San Francisco team that is very interesting. Not that they're good, but they're just weird right now.
Yeah, since he's in trouble, look out.
A.J. McCarron. Dude's garbage. There hasn't been a good quarterback from Alabama in years.
And Denver can help us out next week, too. After they play the Steelers, they go play the Cincinnati Bengals.
And we need Baltimore to win. Steeler fans, if you have a Ravens fan in your family or a friend, buy them a gift for Christmas. We need a gift back from the Ravens this year. Go Ravens. But that's it. Any questions or comments you guys got, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube and clicking subscribe. We love our listeners. We love our Steelers. Here we go again.